Catalyst, Adaptable, and Community.
Hi friends, this is Heather Vickery, and you've tuned in to the Brave Files podcast. I'm so happy to have you here with me today. Do you ever wonder what steps to take next? What to focus on? What your heart, soul, mind, or body most needs? Yeah, me too. That's one of the reasons that I collaborated with my super amazing client friend, Rachel Swanson, to create and design the most wonderful manifestation card deck that, in my opinion, has ever existed. These cards are designed to give you the tools you need to manifest your next steps personally and professionally. Each of the 48 cards features a different word, a mantra, and an image that you can use to guide you and to help you focus. There's also a guidebook included that provides practical ideas to support living a brave, creative life. Honestly, it's like having two coaches right in your pocket, and they're beautiful and inspiring. And the cards are really well made and special. They even have teal glitter edges. Who doesn't want that? You can use these cards like you would use an affirmation deck, an oracle deck, or even tarot cards. We have received our fabulous large shipment of Create Brave cards, and now we've sent out all of the packages to our amazing Kickstarter supporters who we could not have done this project without, so we're very grateful for them. And now that means we're ready to ship you your very own set of Create Brave cards. Visit vickeryandco.com/createbrave to order your deck right now. Get one for you, get one for somebody you love enough that you want them to have these beautiful cards, because they are going to make you so happy. Okay, let's talk about today's episode. I'm really excited to share this one with you folks because you're getting to meet one of my favorite people. She was the original #digital nomad way before it was actually cool. Sunni set out to make meaningful connections with friends, strangers, and potential clients. What she thought would be a fun way to spend her very early retirement turned into a journey of her soul. Learning more about herself than she bargained for and changing lives along the way. The most magnetic woman that I have ever met. She has this incredible calming energy that fills me up all the way, and I know you're going to feel it even through the sound waves. I'm so excited to share my conversation with Sunni with you right now.
This is Heather Vickery, and you're listening to The Brave Files, stories from people living courageously. When we choose bravely in big and small ways, it powerfully elevates our lives. I hope these stories connect with you and encourage you to embrace bravery in every possible way, day after day. Together, we can build a movement of courageous living that enriches both our lives and our communities. And if you enjoy the show, I ask you to please share it with others. Maybe think of someone who you want to choose bravely right alongside you. Thanks for tuning in. Now here's the show.
Friends, several years ago, my partner and I were approached by a woman that we knew but not really that well with the proposition. Could she stay in our home for several weeks? She was embracing a nomadic lifestyle and was traveling the country trading her skills and talents for play. That sounds bad. I don't mean it like that, you people with dirty minds. For a place to live on a short-term basis. Well, long story short, we said yes. And that was the beginning of what has turned into a really beautiful friendship. And as I was writing my new best-selling, I have to say that, book, Fuck Fearless, I wanted to share a story about this experience. So I reached out to my friend, Sunni, and I asked if it was okay to use her name in a short piece. She said yes. And I thought that would make a great episode of The Brave Files. So here we are. Sunni, welcome to The Brave Files.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, Sunni's so calm, cool, and collected. I'm like up on 10, and she's like, chill. I know that about you, and I love listening. You're like, hello, with her sexy radio voice. Just to clear up from the intro, It would have been fine. You could have been trading any skills you wanted to trade. But this was really, it was part, I don't know. I want to know what led you to it. And I feel like we never even really actually had this conversation. You lived with us twice. Mm-hmm. It feels like both a lifetime ago and also like it just
yesterday
happened. Yeah. What was happening in your life? What led you to make a decision to get rid of your stuff? I don't know if you have to tell us. Did you sell it? Did you put it in storage? Whatever you did, and embrace a nomadic lifestyle.
Sure. Yeah, I think what's important for listeners to know is that I made that choice before digital nomad was a hashtag.
For real, you did. Like this was what, 5 years ago?
More. I started in 2015.
Wow.
Yeah. So the phrase digital nomad was just starting to make it into the ether. There was no hashtag of it. There wasn't even really hashtags yet. It was still new. And so I had traveled a lot in my life in general, and I had stepped away from corporate. I had the opportunity to retire really young. And I realized that I was making connections with potential clients all over the place, and I had family-like friends all over the place, and I just wanted to spend as much time with human beings as possible, and living in one place was limiting me. And so it was a slow progression. One year I made a plan to travel and not go home for as long as possible, and I made it for like 8 months.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, well, why do I have a home? I'd rented my home out. I had like a room in my house. I'd rented the rest of my house out. And I was like, why do I have a home? Like, this is an unnecessary expense and drain on the planet. Like, let's get rid of it. So I put everything I needed, which, when you get really clear between the difference between what you need and what you want, life changes a lot, right? So I put what I needed and the few things I wanted into a storage unit that was about 5 by 10. So like a walk-in closet size.
Wow.
And I sold everything else, including my home. And I lived out of my suitcase for 1.5 years and out of my car for a year.
Right. You didn't have a car the first time.
No, the first time I came and visited you guys, I stayed with you guys for like 6 weeks the first time.
Yeah.
I had no car. I was just living out of a suitcase. I had one of those like massive suitcases, not a carry-on. And that was my home. When I opened it, I had artwork hanging. I had like a cross stitch and like a canvas of art on my suitcase when I opened it because it was my pop-up home.
Yeah. And you had a whole system when you would get into a new space, right? You would, to make it yours.
Yeah. Yeah, I had, I have sensitive skin, so I made myself like a little sleep cocoon that I could put on people's sheets so I didn't have to show up and be all awkward, like, thank you for letting me stay, but can I wash your stuff because it's not clean enough for me? Like, no. So I had this like sleep system that I made to protect my skin from other people's detergents so I could keep my skin nice and healthy because I live this way. And I had my own little suitcase holder that I could fit into my suitcase. So when I opened my suitcase, I could pop out this wooden thing and I could put my suitcase on it and keep it up high. So it felt like, it was at my height and I didn't have to like live off the floor. And I had my own little altar and I would get permission from the family I was staying with and I would sage. And I did a little ritual to just kind of declare whatever was my space. This is my space. This is my home. This is where I'm safe for this amount of time. And this family I'm staying with is my family for this amount of time. And it became so really quickly.
It did become so. And I love the way you said that. And I think it became so, at least for us, because you decided it was so. Like I don't know anybody else. I've never met anybody else who could, and I say this with admiration, but who can go into someone else's home and just be like, and now I'm yours and we will all be here together and we will be happy. And people are like, okay, like, I don't know.
It was so much fun though. And yours was one of the few families I stayed with kids. And that's like a whole nother thing, right? Because there's a parenting relationship happening. And as another adult in the house, I had to figure out where do I fit in that dynamic. And maybe I fitted not at all, right? But like what's, if I see a child doing something that's risky, do I speak up? Do I go, hey mom? Do I keep my mouth shut? Like it's a whole dance that you get to do. And for me, it was a lot of fun and I learned a lot about myself and the world. And so to go back to the motivation for becoming a nomad, in 2015, 2016, there was a lot happening in our country. And I was starting to feel a little disenfranchised with the world. And I wanted a reminder of the humans. There was a lot of, they want this, and this group thinks that, and this party thinks this. And I was like, yeah, but behind it all, there's humans. And I wanted a chance to connect with humans. And so living the way I did, really the only way to be successful, unless you're a nature person, which I love nature, but I didn't grow up camping.
Me
I
either.
couldn't travel. I don't have the capacity or the knowledge to travel the world in a tent. So some people could do it that way. I could not. The only way I could accomplish this lifestyle was to be with humans. And I did that for several years, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's so cool. Okay, so talk with us about, okay, so you decided to do it. You've shared why. What was the experience like reaching out to people maybe that you knew very well, and then folks like us who you kind of only knew a little, and saying, could I come and live with you for 6 weeks? Like, how did you decide to do it like that, especially with people you didn't know so well? And what did that feel like? And did it always turn out well?
That's a lot of questions. Okay.
I know, sorry.
It's okay. I didn't have a moment where I decided to do it that way. It just kind of happened holistically.
Okay.
I did.
Very sunny of you.
I did start with people I knew really well. So that was kind of the original motivation, was I want to find clients in big cities, and then I want to go spend time with my very dear friend who lives in Spain. I want to spend time with my very dear friend who lives in this city, right? But then after a few months, like I mentioned, I made it 8 months without needing to go home. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to do this on purpose. When I sat down and thought about, how do I want to do this on purpose? I realized I needed grounding points. Because for that 8 months, I popped from like one place to another, sometimes 3 or 4 nights at a time, sometimes a week, sometimes just one night. And it was exhausting.
Yeah, I'll bet.
So I was like, I need grounding points. And so I did intentionally plan my life to spend 6 to sometimes 8 weeks, sometimes 4, usually a minimum of 4 weeks, with a family that I felt I could become family with, that I knew I had like-minded values with, that I could feel safe in their space. And then in between those longer stays, I stayed with a whole host of people, some of which were complete strangers, for 2 or 3 nights at a time. But, that takes a lot more energy, because when you, I have a certain set of values, right? I treat the planet a certain way, right? I recycle, I do things to try to be good to our planet. And staying in a home where they litter, for example, that takes something to be in that space and not judge and not try to impart my values, and to remain a member of that family and a member of that space and be a responsible guest. That takes a lot of energy. And so you guys were one of my safe grounding spaces, because I knew from our interactions thus far that we had similar values.
Oh, that's so
You
sweet.
guys
You did become family. I think my kids were literally sad when you left the first time. Like, they were like, "Oh, she's leaving." I don't know. It was it was very sweet. And so it was important to you to not just say, "Can I come and take up space in your house for weeks at a time for nothing?" You really wanted to. I don't say that. It sounds bad when I say that. But I mean, I think it could be. And a lot of people take advantage. And you were really thoughtful and careful about making sure that wasn't the case, that there was an exchange of some kind that wasn't financial, I don't think in most cases, for obvious reasons. So how did you land upon that? And what kinds of things did you trade housing for?
Sure, yeah. I really wanted to play in energy. I really wanted, having retired, right, which means I have enough money. For me, retired, I define retired as I have enough money in my retirement funds that when I hit retirement age, I will be very comfortable. So all I have to do between now and retirement age is take care of the life I want in this moment. And to do that, I had to earn quite a bit of money young, right? So I have a relationship with money as a traditional American concept. I wanted to develop a relationship with money as just one form of energy to be exchanged. And so playing in life where I tried to exchange as little money as possible and find other ways to exchange energy was like a big self-development experiment for me. And I really enjoyed being the catalyst for people because I would say, what can we trade? And it's so interesting how people don't know what they want. They don't know what they need. They don't know how to ask for help. And so I almost had to guide them through the conversation of, okay, well, do you like to cook? Oh, you don't like to cook. I don't mind cooking. What if I leave your freezer full of food? Would that be of value to you? So we had to play in that space. And so I really enjoyed that. And the last year I traveled, I bartered for 100% of my needs. I earned $3,000 in cash in 1 year. And I bartered for about $95,000 in goods.
Wow.
Is what the math, right? It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I mean, it really does force the other people to get creative. And I'm trying to remember the first time you stayed, which you stayed much longer the first time than the second time. I don't think we traded business services. I know that the second time you came is when we did the strategy session that I wrote about in the book. But the first time, I legitimately do not remember what it was.
We did a little bit of business services, and I cooked for you guys, and I watched the kids for a couple of times. There was situations where you had like a gap in childcare, so having an adult home for the kids was helpful.
That sounds right.
And you hosted a workshop, and I came and I attended the workshop from the lens of what could you do differently as a fellow sort of coach and mentor. I was like a peer review for you. That was part of it. Right.
I forgot that was
a lot of
time.
little things.
There was a lot of little things. It was fun. It really was fun. And what was the most unusual thing you traded for?
Polyamorous parenting advice.
Wait, but okay, so I guess we should put a pause in it. You were I don't know, poly, yes?
Yeah, I've been
but not
poly
a parent
as long as I can remember.
But you weren't a parent.
I was not a parent, no. So at the time, there was a group of people. There was 4 adults that had been together for a really long time, and they were having a child. And they were trying to negotiate, like there's the people who biologically contributed to the child, and then there's the additional adults in the family, and how do we navigate that? Who gets a say in how the kid's going to get disciplined? And they were struggling a little bit because it was a whole new conversation. And so I was like a facilitator of communication, and it could have been about anything, really. It could have been how do we live together? It just happened to be how do we rear a child? So it wasn't really that they were asking like, what should we do as parents? They were looking for a catalyst, a facilitator for how do we navigate communicating about a child. And you're right. I don't really have the life experience to be qualified for that, but that was what was of value, and I was willing to play the game, and it worked. It worked. I was helpful.
And you are a great facilitator. You're a really skilled listener, and I guess I want to use the word translator. Like this is what I'm hearing or sensing from person A. Person B, I don't think you heard it that way, or how did it land with you? That kind of thing.
And I did a lot of that in my corporate life too. I've always in corporate, I was often like the middleman between 2 drastically different departments, like the analytical people and the creatives, or the technical people and the creatives. Like I was often that translator. So yeah, I would say that's a skill I have. But that was probably the weirdest thing. I did cooking. I traded my services for things too. I didn't get paid for my services for that last year. So I got paid in like airline points. People would trade in their credit card points for gift cards and then give me the gift cards for like gas and food. Somebody took me shopping because they had a bunch of like, some of the stores do like, if you come back during this time, you get free like Old Navy and Kohl's. They give you like cash bucks.
Yeah.
Somebody's like, I have a bunch of cash bucks and I got everything I wanted in the first trip. Here, you go get clothes. Right. So I just got real creative with what do you have that you don't need that I do?
That is so creative. Was there anything that someone asked you to do that you were like, nope, I'm not doing that?
There were occasionally jokes about certain skills, right? And I am all for consensual sex work. I support that as a career path. It is not my path in life. And there were a few times, especially for short-term stays, where like I was connected to one partner and the other partner would make jokes. and it was like a little too close to the line.
That's uncomfortable. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, it was not seriously. There was, and that's the thing is I'm a pretty open book, and so there's only a few parts of my skill set that you could get into that I would be uncomfortable with. So
yeah, I mean, you sent this email. I wish I still had it. I wonder if we have it somewhere, because I'd be curious if you'd let me post it if I can find it in our show notes. This really long, thorough, detailed email about, suggestions of things you could trade with. And I need my own space in the refrigerator so that, things don't cross and we know what to expect and like what your boundaries were and all of that, which I thought was really brilliant. Again, I think as a communicator and translator, you have really mad skills in that space.
Well, and it was important if I'm going to come in and try to navigate boundaries with a family, I need to be clear on what mine are and demonstrate, lead by example of like, I need my own space. I need access to a bathroom. I need access to a fridge. I need these things. And then it gives permission for that family to say, yeah, you're welcome to come. And 8 o'clock is bedtime. It's off limits. We need you to be out of the house. And this is not okay. You know what I mean? It creates a dialogue. It opens up the space.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. What was your favorite place you visited? Or lived in
It's all about people for me at this point. I've traveled so much. I really enjoy being in large cities with mass transit because I grew up in a city without it. And so I also really enjoyed tackling New York City. I would say probably New York City, just because the first time I visited there, I was quite young and hadn't traveled at all. And I was super intimidated. And when I started nomading, I was like, I cannot be a nomad and be intimidated by New York City. Right. And so I intentionally figured out how to hail a cab and how to, make my way through the subway and catch the trains. And so by the time I was done, I had friends that were like, wait, you're not a New Yorker? And so I felt very proud of that.
That's fun.
That was fun.
What did you most learn about yourself during these years? And it was years that you were doing this.
I learned that I'm a lot more introverted than I thought I was. I definitely need downtime. The last year when I was in my car, I would stay with a grounding point like you guys, and then I would stay with a bunch of really diverse strangers on purpose. And then I took 2 weeks to be in nature. And I remember I said I'm not a camper, so I actually slept in my car.
Okay.
I set my car up. I had an air mattress in the back of my car, so that was like my furthest I could go was that. That was like my glamping. But I realized I needed that. I needed the time. In fact, when I left your home last, I went and spent a week exploring Frank Lloyd Wright sites.
That's cool.
Because I realized I really wanted to do that. And I'd never had a travel partner that wanted to, and this was the time, and I was in that part of the country.
How did you shower and use the bathroom and brush your teeth, and how does that work?
Oh, honey, there's a whole subculture of
Clearly,
that.
Because of all the people experiencing homelessness, right? And
yes, I was going to say both. Now it's from a bougie perspective. There's maybe that's a judgment, but there's people who are doing it out of a choice, and it's like a Instagram influencer thing, and there's boards on how to share that sort of thing. And then there's the underground culture of people who are doing it out of necessity. And so you can always park in a Walmart parking lot. Almost any church will not kick you out of their parking lot. You can also pay for a Planet Fitness membership and go to any Planet Fitness in the country and use their showers.
What?
Yeah. So a lot of people use gym memberships. And then worst case, there was a couple times where I slept in police station parking lots. I just pop in and say I'm traveling alone and I don't feel safe at the rest area. And they be gone by morning. It's fine. So.
Interesting. Yeah. Wow. That's cool. You learned that you were more introverted. So COVID taught me that. The pandemic taught me that because no one would believe me. I wonder if everyone was like, no, you're such an extrovert. I talk to strangers everywhere I go. I speak from stages. I'm not afraid of a lot, even though I'm all about embracing our fears. I didn't miss having to be out of my house. I didn't miss having to go to events and network. I was like, y'all, I love you, but I don't miss anybody.
You're very outgoing, but that's different than introvert and extrovert, right? You're an outgoing introvert.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because my part, Bernadette was going insane. She was like, I gotta go out. I gotta talk to people. And I was like, actually, there are too many of us in this house. I need to talk to fewer people than the people stuck in this house.
Yeah, I didn't get the distinction between outgoing and extroverted until I traveled and realized, like, no, I really need alone time to recharge. I'm pretty balanced. I definitely recharge by being around people as well. I didn't have the same experience as you with COVID, but yeah, I didn't know until I put myself in situations where I really maxed out my energy usage that I do need to recharge. I do need that downtime and that alone time.
How do you get that recharge, especially in those spaces where we're moving around a lot?
Well, part of it's the ritual for me. So that ritual of declaring this space my home, and not being afraid to spend time in my space in that home. So I know there were several times where I slept really late when I was staying with you guys. I was like, yo, I'm still recovering. My body's got some stuff going on. And you guys were like, no judgment. But that was like my space, right? I could take that time. Nature, really, though, the time I would spend on the road recharging would be time really connecting with nature. I spent like 3 weeks going through Utah and seeing all the different sites. And even now we own a home with a half acre and it's mostly wooded and grass. And that's how I got through COVID, was I could go outside and connect with nature and recharge.
And you're back in Florida.
I am.
And so the weather is nice. So the outside was available to you all the time.
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't have to deal with the winters the way those of you up north did.
What was that like after traveling so extensively and being in so many different places and spaces to go back, quote unquote, home and establish yourself? And what was that transition like?
Well, first of all, I had to decide where home was.
Right.
Because my stuff was in Orlando. My family's in Orlando, and I'm very close to my family of origin. Two of my partners were in Orlando at the time. But I had made family all over the place. You know, I made friends in Chicago staying with you guys. I have really dear friends in San Fran and Philadelphia and Austin. And so first I had to decide where to land. And Chicago actually was a pretty high front runner. I found a spiritual center in Chicago I really resonated with. I really enjoyed you guys. I made a lot of friends. And but I ended up back in Orlando because I felt a call from Spirit to move into parenting, which at the time was going to be fostering teenagers. And I knew I wanted my family of origin as a support system for that next chapter of life. And I got to tell you, the first 6 months or so that I settled back down were really overwhelming because I didn't know what to do with myself. I was so used to investing so much energy in being, right? It takes a lot of energy to be on the road all the time, to be with different people, to be in different cities. I mean, just even think about spending time in a different metropolitan city and not knowing directions and how to get places and can you turn right on red, right? All of that. And then when I got, quote, home and I took everything out of storage and I wake up in the morning and it'd be like, I have 12 shirts to choose from. And I would be like, whoa, that's too many.
Too many decisions.
Wait, I have jewelry now? I didn't travel with jewelry. And like, what am I going to do today? I have choices. Like I had extra energy, right? I was used to living in a state of using all of my energy really intentionally. And then being home, it's like, oh, we're going to binge watch Netflix for the night. And we're gonna hang out and do nothing for a while and just chill on the couch. And I was like, wait, I don't, that does not compute. So it took a while. And I still am acutely aware of, how much I'm capable of versus how much I'm doing and choosing how much of that to let go of or to invest. I'm a lot more aware of my inventory.
I love what you just said so much. Oh my gosh, I have chills. Taking that inventory of what you're capable of versus what you're doing. And I heard you say that with the unspoken word was without judgment. Like just because you're capable of doing more doesn't mean you should be or have to be doing more all the time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, when I was doing all of that traveling, I had no ties. I mean, I mentioned I'm polyamorous. I had multiple partners, but I didn't have any kids. I didn't have a job. I had the finances to take care of myself in the life I wanted. I had no responsibilities besides myself. And so it made it very easy to take an inventory because whatever I did, it was because I wanted to and I needed it. And I don't know about you, but I think a lot of people, myself especially, like I am much more likely to be motivated to do something if it's for someone else.
Sure.
Right. And so living that lifestyle where it was all about me, I got real clear on, apparently I wasn't motivated to do that because I'll be honest, like I take better care of my body when I am single because I got to attract somebody. But when it's just for me, suddenly I don't care that much. But when I wanted to go hiking alone and I didn't feel safe because my body wasn't in good shape, I was like, okay. So the next time I was out in nature, I made sure that between those 2 points, I had taken care of my body because I wanted to go hiking, not because somebody else needed to find me attractive. It was a really big shift. That's just one. It was like lots and lots of little ways.
Yeah.
To notice, being in integrity to myself for the sake of my own awareness of myself and who I get to be in the world, not because of what someone else is going to think of me or get from me.
Hello, those of you who are helping me produce this episode, right there's my pull quote. That was amazing. Yeah, I love that gift of awareness. And even, I said, I think that you're a translator, translating for yourself from what society tells us to what you want to be true for you or what is true for you. It's really lovely. You mentioned that you thought you were going to go back and settle down and become a foster parent, and maybe we'll save that whole conversation for a completely different interview. Fast forward, that's not exactly how it went down. You subsequently have your own tiny human.
Yeah.
Nugget.
We call them Nugget.
Alex. And Alex is like one of the cutest flipping kids on the planet. And you are doing something that I really think is fascinating and quite frankly brave because it's very new. And you are raising Alex without gender.
Yeah.
And this did not surprise me about you when I learned that was your choice. But I imagine it has to be, is it really easy for you to do, or does it challenge you? And why did you choose to do it?
It is challenging. And I'll be honest, we are much more dedicated to being non-gendered with our child outside of our home than we are inside. In our home, we are fairly lax about pronouns and whatnot. However, whenever we find ourselves getting into gender stereotypes, we bring it back and we're like, no. All right, back to being strict about pronouns, because it has us remember to hold space for our child to express however they want. And that's really what it came down to, is when we thought about wanting to raise our child with a really strong foundation of informed consent about life, they have to decide what gender they want to express as. They get to decide if they want to be a blend of different styles of how they dress, of how they behave, of their interests. And we as Gen X, I guess we're Xennials, is technically what my partner and I are. We feel like more like Gen Xers than anything, but we're like early 80s babies. And my parents are boomers. My partner's parents are boomers. And it's just really easy to step into these really, really heavy stereotypes. If it's a girl, it's like, oh, sorry, princess, it's okay. Are you sad? And if it's a boy, it's toughen up, honey. Like, come on, son, you can be. And I'm like, that. There's so many layers to it. Yeah. There's so many layers. So there's like the idea of implanting the toxic masculinity early on. There's the idea of implanting the diva mentality early on. There's the idea of creating a space for boys to be emotional and girls to be strong. And so we really, for the first 3 years, studies show is where that imprints, that sense of security of self imprints in the first 3 years. It's reinforced in middle school, and then it's really solidified by about 18, 20. And so for the first 3 years, we're pretty committed to holding space for Alex to express however they want and really policing ourselves and our immediate family and anybody who's involved in their life to do that. And using gender neutral pronouns is a constant reminder of that commitment.
Absolutely. Do you get pushback from the outside?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And there's times where I pick my battles. I was on the phone with my mother's brother, who is in his late 80s and is not quite maybe some dementia or something going on. And he asked, what is your child? Is it a boy or a girl? I answered the question. It wasn't the time or the place to have the conversation and to try to educate somebody. You know, they were just trying to be connected to my life, and I just answered the question and moved on. But yeah, we pass strangers and like, is it a boy or is it a girl? I'm like, well, it's not a dinosaur. Yay, I got a human. And they don't know what to do, right? And so we kind of pick our battles and how we respond in different situations.
I remember, I mean, the thing is, and I really want to make sure people know this. This is not necessarily easy for anyone to get right all the time. I'm queer. I try to be very thoughtful and patient and not assume gender. And, you know, you may or may not remember how opinionated my Tessa is, but my Tessa will call me out if I assume gender fast. But a couple years ago, it was clearly before pandemic, I was at an LGBTQ event fundraiser, and I was surprised to see one of the people there super pregnant. And I said, are you having a boy or a girl? And she said, yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
When I was pregnant, I would often respond with, I hope it's a unicorn, or I hope it's a dinosaur. I hope it's an astronaut, you know, instead of answering the direct question. But it's hard. And I think this is a good place to say too, that like, you know, I am a cis, I'm a very female presenting. I align with my assigned at birth gender. I don't represent the non-binary and ungendered community in any way. And I think it's important that they get voices. Yeah. What I am doing is attempting to advocate for this next generation to have more space to be fluid and not have to have the same conversations that people my age are having to have when they want to express differently. Yeah.
I really do. I love it and I appreciate it. I'm often surprised by the people I know who identify as non-binary and or trans who seem to very forthright gender their kids. And I'm not judging you either. If you're listening to this, I'm not judging you. It just fascinates me. Like, I think there's so much societally that you're right. Those first 3 years, it's hard. It's hard to do it differently than.
Well, and I want to say too that like, I think you can totally create space for your child to self-express and gender them. I don't think they have to, like, you don't have to do it the way we are doing it to hold space. We knew that with our parents' backgrounds and even with our backgrounds, that if we didn't take an extreme stand, it would be really hard to honor the commitment. And my partner and I are both part of our dharma in life, part of our commitment in life is we don't mind being the catalyst for difficult conversations. And so this is natural for us. This is a natural self-expression for us. We don't mind having these conversations and being that space for people. Not everybody does, and that's okay too.
Oh, I love that. I love that about you. I miss you. We're going to have a real friend catch up soon.
Yes, please.
This seems like a good opportunity to ask you how you celebrate wins and successes. And I'd like to make it a two-part question. One is, how did you do that when you were living nomadically? And is it any different than how you do it now?
I don't think so. I mean, I listen to your podcast regularly, so I knew this question was coming.
Thanks.
And so I actually asked my partner this morning, I was like, hey, how do I celebrate? And their response was so quickly that they were like, you share. You are so community oriented that the second you have something to celebrate, your celebration is calling somebody or going to be with somebody and having them be excited with you. And I think the same was true when I nomaded. When I was nomading, my primary partner would come and visit me all the time. And I would save all of my little like celebrations and accomplishments. And when they got there, I would be like, here's all the awesome things that happened since we last saw each other. And we would kind of do a little happy dance together and have a little moment of cuddling and acknowledgement from them. I also really, really enjoy being in nature. And so sometimes I give myself the gift of, you know, kind of playing hooky and live in Florida. So I'll go to the beach or go to the lake and be near water. And I like to give back. Right? So if I have a big win in my business, I'll make sure that a charity or a nonprofit or somebody I know who's just having a rough time, they get a big win, right? I pay it forward. Yeah.
I love that. Well, that's a nice little lead-in. Thanks for that. What is your favorite charitable organization to support?
I love the Zebra Coalition. It is an organization here in Central Florida that holds space and creates resources for mostly teenagers who are in the LGBTQ community. They do a lot of support for trans kids. Their primary focus that I support is they make sure that kids have safe places to be. So they do a lot of work to support kids who are evicted from their homes when they come out.
I love that.
It's a big part of my commitment in life is that people have support when they transition into adulthood, and Zebra Coalition makes that happen for LGBTQ kids.
That's awesome. They will be our charity of the week. As always, listeners, go out, give them a little love, whatever that looks like for you. Okay, so this is not a business podcast, but very quickly, Sunni, and you've only just reestablished yourself, even put yourself out there as an entrepreneur doing work. What is the kind of work you're doing? And if people want to know more, how can they find you?
Sure. I am an intuitive strategist. So I have a background in business strategy, and I pull in all of my intuitive, woo-woo, spiritual, witchy abilities with it. So I work with people in scaling their businesses and their lives, making a life they love. And you can find me at wildflowerstrategy.com. And I kind of do a lot of what I did when I was nomading. I serve however I can. So I get called for all sorts of fun opportunities. Sometimes it's business, sometimes it's life, sometimes it's polyamorous parenting advice. You never know.
I love that. I love that. Sunni, will you share your 3 words with us one last time?
Yeah, they are catalyst, adaptable, and community.
Those are great words, and I would say they're about right. Let's quickly talk about catalyst. What made you pick that word, and why does that resonate for you?
Oh, I've had that word for a long time. It has a pretty heavy science background, right? You think of like being in a lab and you add something and you add this ingredient and things change. And I tend to be that on a metaphysical and a human level. When you add me to a situation, the energy changes. When you add my brain to a situation, I come up with solutions that other people didn't think of. And I don't mind holding space for other people to change. So I'm a really good ingredient to add to a stressful, complex, or overwhelming situation.
I love that. I love it. I love you. I'm glad you're family. We recently redid our bedroom, and I was cleaning out a drawer next to my bed, and I found a little thank you / family love note that you had left on my pillow when you left our house the last time. And I was glad that I had tucked it next to the bed. And it just made me feel really warm and sunny inside.
Yay.
Thank you for that. Thank you so much for being here and for being part of our family and such a good friend. And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I'm just so glad you have this podcast. I think you're doing really good work in the world. And I'm glad you have all these amazing listeners to support it.
Thank you so much. Well, speaking of that, folks, if you like what you're hearing, do me a favor, subscribe, rate, and review the show because it does matter. And also it makes me feel really good when you write a review and then I get to see it and I go, oh, they like it. They really like it. It's my Sally Fields moment. Yeah. Be sure to check out my brand new sister podcast, Was It Chance? It's a podcast about embracing opportunity and taking intentional risk for your creative life. You can find it at wasitchance.com or wherever you're listening to the Brave Files right now. As always, I invite you to share your thoughts, feedback, whatever brave action you're out doing. The best way to do that, I think, is to follow the Brave Files podcast on Instagram and send us a DM anytime. Thank you so much for being here. Until next time, this is Heather Vickery reminding you today and every single day to go out and choose bravely. Bye.
Hey friends, I want to share something really exciting with you. We already know you enjoy listening to podcasts because you're listening to this one, but I'm also betting you enjoy audiobooks. And hey, listen, if you don't already enjoy audiobooks, then it's time to check them out. That's why I'm really excited to share Libro.fm with you. They are an incredible new platform for listening to audiobooks. And by choosing Libro.fm over other audiobook services, you are supporting a local bookstore of your choice and investing in your local community. Libro.fm offers over 150,000 audiobooks via their primary platform, which, by the way, they built with love and from scratch because they're a small business also. They even offer bookseller recommendations for great audiobook options. You can sign up right now via www.vickeryandco.com/LibroFM. That's vickeryandco.com/LIBROFM. And when you do, you'll get one free audiobook of your choice, and the proceeds will go to your favorite local bookstore. Now, check what I just said there. You're going to get a free book, and the proceeds are still going to go to your local bookstore because Libro.fm makes sure that their booksellers get paid even when they give a promo to customers. I've listened to over 20 audiobooks this year alone. I especially love listening to memoirs read by the author, and it feels great knowing that all of my purchases support my local bookstore, The Book Table, in Oak Park, Illinois. Libro.fm. The same audiobooks, the same price, but a completely different story. Check them out right now at vickeryandco.com/LibroFM. Have you ever thought about starting a podcast? Maybe you've had this thought and then quickly shut it down because who has the time? Or you don't know how, or gosh, it just all seems too hard. If you have something to share with the world, we want to encourage you to get your message out. The world needs to hear it. Did you know that 50% of all homes are podcast fans? If you've ever wondered about having your own podcast or how it can increase your business or get your message across, then please join me and the other experts from the Podcast Power Academy for our monthly free Q&A session. It's called So You Want to Start a Podcast? This casual live conversation will help you understand how podcasting can be a great decision, why now is the best time to get started, and how to get into action with it. Visit podcastpoweracademy.com to learn more. You've been listening to The Brave Files, stories of people living courageously. To learn more about the show, find our show notes and full episode transcripts, or to get some great bonus content, visit thebravefilespodcast.com. And we would love to know what you think of the show. You can give us a call at 312-646-0205. Let us know your thoughts on the episode, the show in general, or maybe share with us how you're out choosing bravely. This episode is brought to you by Vickery & Co. Success Coaching. Coaching that helps you maintain a life well lived and a business well run. Learn more at vickeryandco.com. Our music was created and produced in a custom collaboration with Matt Lewis from ML Creative Consulting, a boutique firm dedicated to helping clients identify their unique sound and amplify their brand with custom delivered soundtracks. We couldn't do any of this without our extraordinary audio engineer, Andrew Olson. Learn more about him and check out his work at findandrewolson.com. And special thanks to everyone on Team Brave, from our producers, associate producers, copy editors, writers, and support team. Special thanks to Molly, Mary, Kim, Sabra, and Sabrina. I'm your host and executive producer, Heather Vickery. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next week.